I'll just give you a brief introduction about Manish. Manish is a strategic advisor, investor for early stage founders. He has been associated with Lead Angels, Maple Capital Advisors before. He's quite helpful in terms of early stage venture building. And as an investor, we would like to understand your perspective today, Manish. And to give you a background, these are early stage founders, mostly coming from different backgrounds across India. So it would be great to have a very interactive session. So maybe you can give an overview about your past experience, what led you to helping the startup ecosystem altogether, and then maybe we can give it a quick go.
Sure, sounds good. So I have a small presentation which will take around 10, 12 minutes.
Sure.
If it's fine with you, I'll take the people through that because that is the condensed version of what I have gone through over the past 25 years, which has with the ecosystem. Sorry?
Sure.
Hi.
So there are some background noise, so I'll mute everyone and maybe you can unmute yourself. That would be a better. Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I think I'll just start by this. So briefly about myself, I got a first set of, so-called founders funded with who didn't have anything but some sweat equity, and there was no, concept of sweat equity in 1998. Got them funded for that. These guys were wanting to make a treasury banking software product, which was like unheard of in those times when most people were talking about, Y2K, and your legacy systems maintenance and working on site on various of the things. That was the typical kind of landscape which was there. It was literally like, if you can spell computers and if you know some languages or if you worked in even Fortran for that matter, you can actually, you will be given a training for 2-3 weeks. Your visa arrives and you are shipped to US. That used to be that time. So like all the biggies that are there right now, they were all into body shopping and into, your things like Y2K projects and all that, because that was a big kind of a loop which everyone was trying to solve at that time. To put things in perspective, if some people are not aware, till actually 95, 98, what used to happen was all the dates in your for all your programming were typically in the DDMM format. Okay. And then people realize that, we are getting to year 2000. And if this 00 comes in place of 2000, then will the program stop? No one knew what will happen. There were no simulations around that. So everyone was on the job to convert DDMM to DDMM. So that was a simple project or so-called this single line statement or problem statement led to the genesis of the multi-billion-dollar IT industry, which is one of the largest exporters within India today. Okay, so without much ado, I worked with largely a lot of tech kind of.
Manish, are you sharing a presentation? Maybe.
Yes, I'm just doing that. 1 sec.
Sure.
I will screen now. You can tell me if my is the screen visible right now?
Yes, Manish, we can.
Okay, I'll just start with as mentioned, I am consulting director with Maple Capital Advisor, and I'm advising on portfolio growth with Lead Angels, and this is basically all about entrepreneurs, startups, and business models. What makes a startup fundable, and what would excite an investor? How should a founder go about it? That's largely what I've tried to condense into this. So startup facts are, people say 99 out of 100 startups fail. Amongst the successful ones, 66% are those that have drastically changed from their original plan. What does this tell us? That the key is to move from plan A to a plan that works. You don't need plan B, plan C. It could be plan E, F, G for all that matter before your resources run out. So that is the key for startups, because for startups, everything is in scarce, all your resources have a scarcity syndrome, whether it's team, whether it's people, whether it's time, whether it's customer set, or whether it's the money or it's supporters or advice. So keeping that in mind, what typically are we looking at? If you talk about an entrepreneur, that is the genesis of any startup or an idea, right? So can anyone tell me where is this entrepreneur word derived from? What is the etymology of the word? Would anyone like to take a guess on that? So, entreprendre in French means to undertake. Okay. And in our very own Sanskrit, there's a word called antprerna, which means self-motivate. So the definition that I have coined for this is, for an entrepreneur, is that a person who's self-motivated and who undertakes to change the status quo, to make things better, cheaper, and faster for the mass, is a true entrepreneur. Okay. What are the qualities that we are looking at as investors? He should be very passionate about what he is talking about. He has to be very inquisitive. What is happening? How is happening? Is there a problem? Can it be solved, etc.? What are the existing solutions? Risk taker, obviously, because he's actually putting all his eggs into one basket. Okay. Unlike most of the investors want to hedge their bets and they want to keep different eggs in different baskets. Okay. And he has to have very high infectious energy levels because he has to excite his co-founder. He has to keep his family informed, that, hey, I'm working on something really big. His friends, his team, he has to get his investors. He has to excite his customers. So you require a very high degree of infectious energy. Okay. And of course, he has to be a good listener. Okay. Because if you have to pivot, he is basically listening to the customer. Okay. What are the customers trying to say, or what is left unsaid? Can he make things out of that? Essentially, if you see, an entrepreneur always searches for change, responds to it, and exploits it as an opportunity, as said by Peter Drucker. So that's exactly what happened when, say, your Uber came in, right? He said smartphones are there. They've got people have maps in their palms. There are drivers who've got maps in their palms. Can I map this too and ensure that the place where a rider wants the driver to be? That is what he did with Uber. And it actually became so big. Okay. So going forward, what is a startup? It's a temporary organization in search of a repeatable, scalable, sustainable business model. You take out any one of these things and it will continue to remain a startup, or it will not be a success, or it will just fold up. So any idea that you have, any transaction, any software, any services or a product that you're providing to your customer. Number one, can you repeat that process for a customer? Number two, can you have that process for not 10, 100 or 1,000, but lakhs of people or millions of people? Is that sustainable? Basically, what you're trying to say is the unit economics all right? And you have to have a sound business model around it, which ensures that the money that comes to you and you have your margins. And so essentially, a startup starts with, it's like the small sapling which you see in the hand in the photograph, and if you take care of it well, this is the sapling of a tree called redwood. One sec. So that is what a redwood tree is actually, which grows to nearly, say, 150 feet plus kind of thing, or maybe 200 feet, the kind of thing. And its base is more than 35, 40 feet. So that is what a redwood giant looks like. In fact, there is a VC fund also, which is called Redwood Ventures. And these are what you will grow to if your startup is nurtured well with, light, sunshine, and the right kind of resources and the right kind of pesticides that are there. Globally, we've had things like Amazon, Google, X now, Uber, Facebook, Airbnb, which have really grown from what they started out as. Okay. Now, if you come to India has so many problems, and that exactly is what is a problem. What is an entrepreneur truly looking for? He's looking for a problem to solve. Okay. And India is filled with so many problems, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's crowd, whether it's lack of resources, whether it's, potholes filled with roads, or whether it is lack of cash or a resource. People want things cheaper, faster. And so across the sector, if you see, even today, across education, transportation, logistics, housing, financial services, F&B, in India, we have enough white spaces wherein, you have possibility of 3 to 4 winners, unlike the West, wherein you have only one winner typically. Like there is an Amazon, and for the online sales, you have Amazon, and beyond that, the next guy would have less than a 10-15% share. Okay. And for the normal sales, retail sales, you got Walmart, and their next competitor would be, a fraction of, say, what they are. But in India, we've got enough enough opportunity for 3-4 people to coexist. So we've got Amazon, we've got Flipkart, we've got Jio, etc. If you see in the telecom side also, We've got Jio, we've got Airtel, we've got, say, your Vodafone Idea, right? So we've got enough white spaces, and Indians, they despise monopolies. That is the reason why we can actually sustain more than two players in the same place. Okay, just one sec. Yeah. So what is startup? If you say, look at, say, startup investing, while till 2020. In the year 2020, we had only 11 startups. Till date, we have more than 100 unicorns. That's basically because of the problem-solving mindset and free flow of capital to target those problems. And we've got more than 100 the thing, and this opportunity is there for others also. Okay, we've had some successful IPOs. Some IPOs were overpriced, they tanked, but now they're again in line and they're coming back. And yes, there is enough room for more. And many of these Indian companies have gone together with a global footprint. When you talk about value creation, what you're looking at is, when you talk about the unit economics, so supposing, say, you have something which is worth 100 rupees, okay, for which a customer is, say, ready to pay 100 rupees, that is X dollar value for the world, and your margin would be can be more than 10, 20, 30 or 50 rupees out of that 100. So that is the Y value that you will capture as a start. This means you have a positive unit economic. Okay, when will that happen? That typically happens, I'm like, in our parlay, when we talk to founders, what we do is we ask them these 6 questions. Okay, what is the first one? Can you visualize a typical day in the life of your customer? Can you spot his pain points in his daily routine? Can you solve his problem? So old school investors are typically, they don't start with TAM, SAM, SOM or things like that. The first thing they want to understand is, what is the problem that you're trying to solve and how are you different? The next 3 questions. So 5 questions is what I ask from you, and the 6th one is what I punt on. So while solving the problem, can you generate revenue? Which essentially means that, is the customer willing to pay for your solution? Can you generate profits? Which means, do you have a positive unit economics? The blue line is a positive, and it's not in the opposite direction. If you see the bottom, say, the blue arrow that you're talking about. And once you have answered all these 5, and I'm satisfied with that, then I, as an investor, look at this problem, can you scale these profits? Now, this may sound a very simple question, but it takes in a lot of, your outlook basically looks, you have to have an outlook on, how better is the product or a solution of yours compared to competition. What delta do you have in terms of price, in terms of timelines, in terms of usability, the kind of thing, so that your competition is kept at bay. Okay, because the moment competition comes in, any advantage that you had on the prices, startup is all about looking at a white space, creating a solution which is different from any competition. And since it is different from competition, customers rush into you. So you can charge supernormal profit. Okay, you can have supernormal profits. That is essentially what startups are all about. Okay, but if you don't have enough moat, then what will happen is, within a few months, your competition will copy that. Okay. And apart from brute force, that is using, say, money, which is typically done by the multinationals, or which was being done by startups also with their huge funding sets. If you cannot bring in the customer loyalties, the trust of the customers, then the customers won't stay with you. So that is what we take a look at, that how the founding team, how their solution can actually reach out to the customers, and how customers will get that loyalty or the trust factor in, and will that continue over the years to come? Can they create something really big in this? That is essentially what we look. Okay, what we have about a business model, a lot of people think, that the revenue model is the business model, but it essentially is just one of the characters in the whole story. Business model essentially describes how a company creates, delivers, and captures. Okay. Now, there was a business model canvas which many people try to use for a startup, which essentially looks like this. It's called Osterwalder business model because he was the inventor of this. That is, you put all your activities in 9 segments. Okay. But in this thing, if you see the key partners, as a startup, you don't have key partners. You don't have any key activities. Your resources are minimal. Okay. You don't have existing customer relationships, right? So what you have is, you have cost structure, and you may not have any revenue stream. So there's a person by the name of Ash Maurya, who's of Indian origin, who came out with something called the Lean Canvas. Many of you might have heard of it or have tried to use it also. I I ask my startups to use that and continue to use that, because every 6 months, you need to take stock of where you are. And what does that depict? So that talks about what is the problem you're trying to solve, for which customer segment. Okay, do you have a solution for that? Is there a unique value proposition? What channels will you use to take your solution to the customers, to the early adopters and customers segment? What are the revenue streams that you are targeting? What is the cost structure? This is very important. Do you have your cost structure mapped or not? Supposing someone says that I am into a technology play, and he says that I will get my CTO, I will hire a CTO at the cost of probably 12 to 15 lakh, because these resources are not unless he is part of the founding team, and he is actually he has enough of a bounty to make, provided their play is successful. So you won't get a good person for that kind of a price, right? And key metrics is something which, as I said, so startups are all about pivoting. So you have to have some key metrics which are predefined, that if I reach this figure, I will go forward. If I don't, then I need to change. That is important part. And last but not the least is the unfair advantage. What is the unfair advantage that you're starting with? Is it your team? Is it your background? Is it your understanding of the customer segment? Is it the confidence that you have? Do you have already a good name among the investors? That's how you would see, people who come out of a Licious or Flipkart or something, they are typically given preference by investors because they've seen scale up of operation kind of thing. Okay. So basically start with the problem. What customer segment? What is your unique value proposition, so that your solution through various channels is reached out to the customers? What are your revenue streams, cost structure, key metrics you need to have in mind? And again, unfair advantage, that is what could be a moat. It could be patents, it could be team, it could be your relationships, etc. Okay. So right side of the thing is what the market, how you are taking care of the market side. And the left side or the blue part is what the product side, as an internal entity you need to create that. Okay. Business plan should have all these elements. Your deck, essentially. Number one, a punchy statement which describes the idea. It talks about the problem that that the idea is trying to solve. Market analysis and competition analysis, very important. Market analysis also, you need to be going through the competitive advantage which you have over the existing players, over your existing solutions that you are replacing. What would be your go-to-market strategy? Cost, revenue parameters, and cash flows projections. Very important. At least, the semblance of it. You need to understand for it. See, you need to put a plan in place. You may not work on it 100% kind of thing, but, that becomes your blueprint to take on. And you take a course correction at certain, levels. Okay. Keeping an eye on cash flows is very important for a founder. And team profile and suitability for the idea, again, they're very important. If you tell me, if I come to any one of you and I say that, hey, I want to create a rocket fuel company. So the first thing that you'll tell me is, hey, you don't have any expertise in this or even knowledge of the sector. How will you get into this? You will not even say, listen to me, right? And risk metrics, you should be aware of what are the risks and how you can mitigate those. So the investor wants to hear, what are you using to mitigate the risk for yourself, for your startup, and hence for the investor if he comes on board. Essentially, you start with an idea, you build, create a product, measure the responses, get the data, learn from it, again, generate new ideas, again, build, till such time as you get a product market. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. These are my coordinates. I'm on X with Manish Johri 8. I put it on the chat also. LinkedIn.com/in/Johri. Instagram, Joeman71. Email mj@maple-advisors.com. Yep, I think we can do a stop share now. Open to the forum. Happy to answer questions. So I hope, Shubham, you can help me with if there are any questions in the thing.
Sure, Manish. So thank you so much for sharing a brief and your perspective around investing in Indian market. So maybe we can give some time for the folks to articulate their questions. You can raise your hands or give a reaction and I'll unmute you to ask the questions. You can also put it in the chat box if you would like to. Meanwhile, Manish, if you could share some of your examples or experience till now, that would be helpful.
Okay, I'll share one example. So way back in 2000, which was supposedly, December, I mean, anywhere from 99 onward, it was a dot-com boom, supposedly to say. And at my previous company, which was called Tech Cap India, we were, so we were a boutique firm only working with startups to help them with their business plans and helping them get. So we had gotten funded companies like Contest to Win. I think most of you might have heard the name Alok Kejriwal. Who is the founder of Games to Win. So his earlier companies were Mobile to Win and Contest to Win. So Contest to Win, we had helped get funded. Cyber India Online, we had helped get funded, and a couple of others. So January second half, this person comes to me with a .com plan, and he says that I'm looking for funding. Can you help? And this was on a phone call, and he just returned from US. That's what he told me, and he's working on he had one. I'm Ahmedabad guy who'd been with say advertising side of the thing with JWT and Ogilvy and Mather kind of an experience. So a good guy, and he himself was so like I asked him to send a deck. Then the deck I saw it was the key thing that I saw was he himself was Wipro, IBM, Dell, who's worked on R&D, who's worked on global P&Ls with Dell, who's worked on who's also worked with a chip design services firm in US, and from that, for some personal reasons, he had to come back to India. So that is essentially what it. So he said, "Hey, I want this kyadealhai.com thing funded." So I am a person who typically takes more of a contrarian kind of a view, and if you see the .com boom globally and especially in US was it was a straight one-way arrow from 96 onward up to 2000. And people were saying that this will continue the same. And left, right, center, anything to do with .com, classteacher.com, takemypolicy.com. I mean, you name it, it was being funded, And so I told him, I said, I'm not getting... I like you as a person. I don't think you should be going on for this idea, and neither will I help you to fund your kya deal hai. Said, why? I said, you're seeing a boom right now. Very soon, this will be the opposite. By the time we hit the market to raise funds, you'll see a downturn and you won't be able to do anything. So said, so what do you suggest? I said, you're a techie. Why don't you get me a tech-oriented idea? He said, okay, let me try that. So he comes back to me after 2-3 months. And so like March end, he calls me. He said, hey, Chief, you were saying right, I said, yeah, what happened? They said, yeah, so Yahoo stock has started to come down. It is now probably less than 70% of what the peak was. And I think it'll go down. I said, wait, there is more coming. So around April, he came back, and this time he came back with something called, it was a chip design services play. And what he was going to work on was something called DFT, design for test, which is a lingo in the semiconductor design. And it was supposedly only for multi-million gate chips. Okay. Now, when people talk about, you want a huge market size or something like that. So like someone right now, just while we were preparing for it, someone was saying there is a huge market of people to date with each other. There are billions of people, and in India alone, you have 60 crore people. But one way is you can simply look at that kind of a. The way I look at it is, so when I did that search of DFT word on Google at that time, I got 3 pages. But if you put things in a logical say your canvas, okay, what you see is that, hey, chips will get more and more complex, okay. There were hardly any multi-million gate chips at that time. You could literally count them on your finger. But because of Moore's law and because of density increasing of within the semiconductor, you will have more and more of multi-million gate chip. If that is the case, then his service or his productized service would make a lot of difference and will really increase the speed of market for most of these semiconductor design companies. And so I checked my thesis with another guy from IIT Bombay, who was the CTO of Contest to Win, which is a client of for which we had raised some funds. So he said, exactly, it makes sense. I think you should take him on. And trust you me, we hit the market, first meeting, within 1 month, we had an investor who said that I will fund it single-handedly. A team of 5 people, out of which 3 were moonlighting. They had a pilot order of probably 1,500. I was able to get them funded. At that time, 4 crores was nearly $0.9 million or something, like 0.8 kind of thing. And we got him funded right away. His ask for me was that before September, I need the funds because I need to go to this international testability conference wherein I will showcase what we are doing. And I was able to achieve. So the lesson of the thing is that you need not follow what everyone is doing. Okay. You can make your space, find what is your strength area, work on it, and maybe you could do something far better than just following, hey, I'll make a dating site, I'll make a this thing. Yeah, similarly, like another friend of mine, he's a great guy on your Microsoft technology. Okay. But whenever I ask him that, what kind of startup idea do you have? So he comes to me कि हम यूनिवर्सिटी के स्टूडेंट्स के लिए कुछ हम ऐसा करेंगे या फिर I will do this for this particular segment B2C oriented, why don't we make things for restaurants so that they make it easier? I said, boss, that is not your competency. If you try to get into it, you will end up nowhere. I said, no, but this is the case. I said, at a small scale, it will work. Udaipur mein kaam kar jayega tumhara. He's from Udaipur. I mean, he spent more than half of his life in the US and the other half in Udaipur. And so I told him that in Udaipur it may work. आजू बाजू की सिटी के अंदर भीलवाड़ा में हो जाएगा, ब्यावर में हो जाएगा. But the moment you take it slightly bigger, people come to know. People will, just so a company like Zomato will provide it free to the restaurants, kind of thing. So yeah, that is what is the kind of thing that I suggest to people. Don't just go by what is in flavor. If you have something which you think you can really make a difference, it may not be the flavor of the day. I mean, you'll find someone to assist.
Yeah, interesting. Area of competence, right?
Second thing that people say is, sir, Facebook, Amazon, Google, Microsoft are my competition. So the moment we hear these two statements, we switch off at that very moment. So you need to know exactly, I mean, as I said, you need to know what is the problem you're solving, for which initial target segment you're solving, because focus is important. If you have a go-to-market strategy for billions of people, then you will spread yourself so thin, you won't be able to reach out to them. कुछ नहीं आप कर पाओगे. But if there's a certain segment, like in case of say Kuntal, he is targeting the northeast side. Now, what he can do is, his advantage is there are a lot of northeast focused funds, grants available. Can he use those to make his offering more tech friendly? Okay. What he is doing right now for 1,000 people, can he do the same for 10,000 people with the same kind of efficacy? If he can, then it starts making sense for people, right? So his competition is what? His competition, as he said, it is Planet Spark, it is that tutor next door, it is all those things. What he needs to do is, he needs to get his customer to think that his is the best solution. And once he has provided a solution to someone, that guy should tell 10 people, boss, if you want to learn communication, go to this site, right? I have an investment in a company called Hockey Pocky. You can take a look at it. That does exactly that, only for kids up to 10 years age, right? From 2 years to 10 years. Okay. So that's an app, and that is being used by probably more than $2 million. 2 million monthly average users he's got. More than that. Okay. So competition, आपको अच्छे से देखना पड़ेगा. Who you are replacing? What is the alternate that someone is trying to use? That essentially is what you are trying to say. Like, say, for example, what Vikram asked right now, right? So if a person is going by metro, then only part that he is exposed to that high temperature is between his house to the AC taxi that he is going in. Okay. And between that AC taxi to stepping down into a metro station. So actually, if you see, public transport is in one way a competition to him.
Right. I think there is a question in the chat box around how do you evaluate at an early stage? How do you evaluate a venture at an early stage?
So we have multiple rounds with the founder. We try to understand where he's coming from, what are his strengths, what level he's reached in the product, or he is trying to reach. Does he have the basic, and does he have a team together? Most of us, we shy away from solo entrepreneurs. So do you have a team or not? So as I said, when I said in that, you need infectious energy levels. Have you been able to excite a friend of yours, a colleague, an ex-colleague of yours into buying into your idea and working along with you on? So, I mean, if you have, number one, do you have a co-founder or not? Number two, have you got the problem? Have you been able to gauge what is the problem that this person is having? Okay. Now, say for example, I come and tell you, right? Sir, आपके यहाँ जितने भी chef, जितने भी कुक आते हैं, आई मीन मैं लोगों के घर कुक भिजवाऊं. What will be your answer to that? Would you invest into me if I tell you that? But if I tell you, sir, I am from NIT, say NIT Kurukshetra. Okay, there are two of my friends. We were working and we were staying in this chamri. We always had this problem to get food because we were ordering all the time, and we had upset stomachs and others, and so I think as is the case, there is a lot of there are a lot of incentives being given by the government for creating startups, for working on startups. Okay, and the reason is that for the government to create jobs, it's a very tough work. Okay, and by spending money, they cannot create jobs. That's why they are fueling the startup side of the thing. This is good also, but it's scary also. What is happening is a 10th, 11th, 12th class student is saying, sir, I have this idea. I want to get it funded. Okay. On the flip side, there are guys who are in that same thing. 12th class wala banda मेरे को आकर बोलता है, सर मैंने ये वेबसाइट भी क्रिएट कर लिया है, मैं अपने कस्टमर को सर्विस भी ये प्रोवाइड कर रहा हूँ, अब मैं आगे कैसे करूँ? So he's already gone to that. I said, how will you manage it with your graduation? He said, so there are people ready to leave all their studies and just focus on their startup. That is not good. I think education is very important. People should go into that. You need to find partners who we funded a lot of guys who had their ventures parallelly running while they were say doing their graduation, right? So you have an idea, start working on it. Siddiq bhai, आपको भी मैं यही बोलूंगा, आपका आइडिया है, आप उस पर काम तो करो. ओके, ऑनलाइन नहीं करना. you start, you can join hand with 3-4 people, start one thing. एक छोटा सा स्टोर खोल कर देखो, उस पर लोग बाग आपसे आकर खरीदते नहीं खरीदते. ओके, ऑनलाइन अगर करना है तो वेबसाइट, आपके कोई मित्र है और कोई है, उनके साथ मिलकर वेबसाइट बनाओ, एक सेंड इट थ्रू दैट. ओके, आई फंडेड एन एग्रीटेक कंपनी. ओके, दे आर डूइंग अ वेरी सिंपल थिंग फॉर द मार्जिनल फार्मर्स. दे आर प्रोवाइडिंग tractor when they want it, harvester when they want it, seeds when they want it, pesticides when they want it. He had a problem. No one was listening to him from IFCO because he wanted some pesticides and fertilizer. Okay, we opened some doors for him and he spoke to them himself. Today he's selling. He's got a regional license, regional say distributor license for that. A person who started from zero scratch is having a turnover of more than 1 crore per month. Okay, simply from renting out the thing in the season, he will have nearly more than 1.5 crore revenue only from rentals. Okay, because he's solving the problem of that marginal farmer. उसको टाइम पर ट्रैक्टर नहीं मिलता था, उसको टाइम पर हार्वेस्टर नहीं मिलता, उसको टाइम पर सीड नहीं मिलता. तो he has digitized the chain and he's used shared economy and market aggregation as this thing. He's getting him the best prices. He buys it from him and sells it to a single shot guy, which individually none of these guys could. So there are problems in India. Find that problem and start working on it. If you don't have money, create a blueprint of it, create a plan how you can work on it. Excite some people, get onto it. Don't just say that, boss, I have an idea and I need funding for it. No one is going to fund an idea unless I understand that it will make my money multiply on. Okay. So जो chef का जो मैं example दे रहा था वो मैं यही दे रहा था. So those 3 people came to us who were from IIT Kharagpur that, sir, in COVID times, we didn't have any cook coming in. Also, there's a problem that these cooks were chucked out from restaurants because the restaurants had shut down themselves. We can't order. And हमारे यहाँ जो मेड आती है वो स्क्रीन्ड है या नहीं है, उन्होंने टेम्परेचर लिया हुआ है या नहीं हुआ है, हमारे को नहीं पता था. एंड पीपल वर फॉलिंग इल. So we tried to solve this problem, and in 100 households we send the cooks who were pre-screened with all their background verification done. We funded them 2 crores. Then they got funding of $2 million from Bloom Ventures and Titan Capital and others. Okay, so you create a thing, you have digitized the journey, you have automated the verification process, you've done all these things, right? Swiggy भी वैसे ही चालू हुआ था, दीपिंदर गोयल ने भी ऐसे ही चालू किया था. What did he start with? He said कि यार हम लोग नीचे जाते हैं, हमें पता नहीं होता है क्या मंगवाने, क्या नहीं मंगवाने, क्या प्राइस है. नीचे नहीं जाना है, आज काम ज्यादा है, मैं मंगवा सकता हूँ क्या ऊपर, या मेन्यू है क्या, पहले से डिसाइड कर ले क्या खाएंगे. He put the menu of the restaurant, उनके नीचे जो थे सबको उन्होंने उससे अपने he put it on his intranet, not even on internet. He didn't even create a web page.
Makes sense. Manish, in the early stage, it is very difficult. Even we come across a lot of early stage ventures, right? So the mentality is simply like idea mil jayega, we'll show it to the investors and get funding. So that mentality needs to be changed and more execution focused approach is required to be built.
Ask not what someone else will do for you. Ask what you can do. Okay. Like, so this guy, so this aerospace person, you had Alia, right?
Right, Alia.
So he's working on something, but I can, so like as an advisor, I can help him, you don't focus on, say, such a large thing, you focus only on this part of, okay. Find the problem which this guy, which is the customer set, which is most likely to pay for your this, okay. Like, say, for example, we know so many of these guys. So if you can make something as a Make in India kind of a thing, wo tum agar wo banana chahte ho, so I can get you clients for that, okay. I've got these drone services companies. They could be your, okay. I think, Shubham, I have more than answers. I think I have made you get so many questions. We could do one more session going forward later. But yeah, like as I said, reach out to me as and when I have time. And if it's an interesting enough idea, I will respond. Okay. If you have a specific question, I will respond to that. But we can't get into a debate, that why I will not fund this or why I think this idea is not important. I mean, that's my prerogative. Okay. And that investors, like between us investor friends also, like if I send my portfolio company to an investor, और मैं उसको कहता हूँ, उसको अच्छा नहीं लगता है, वो बोलते थे नहीं यार मेरी thesis नहीं है अभी investment. I can't go and fight with them now, right? Then no. I mean, I funded it. I've already seen it. See, it is growing month on month also. Okay, why don't you fund it? So yes, I mean, you are in a very difficult kind of thing. Being an entrepreneur is a very tough journey. And yes, you do need support from all the places. I'll try and help wherever possible. But yes, again, then you need to be ready to, give some mentor equity, advisor equity, if I find that idea interesting enough. Okay. And so Vikram, all the best to you. As I said, find that customer segment which you think would be easiest to pay for that. Running after these B2C guys just because it's a suit which will help him keep warm or cold, वो 25,000 रुपए नहीं देगा. I know. So there are people who will buy, what do you call, $2,000 का कोट खरीद लेंगे वो. But ये AC वाला वो नहीं खरीदेंगे वो फिर भी. Right? So anyway, so anything else?
No, thank you so much, Manish. I think we already exceeded our time, but thanks for your honest back and
it was a pleasure to be there.
It was a pleasure hosting you, Manish.